Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss the legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedoms and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties, education, and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country. In the courtrooms of America, Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedoms.
If Obamacare is so good, then why is everyone getting waivers, except for some Republican states? I'm Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. Joining me is Matt Barber, vice president of Liberty Counsel Action. You know, this wonderful thing called Obamacare, it's just a lovely package of health insurance that the federal government wants everyone to participate in, and it's supported by President Obama and Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid and the democratically controlled Congress that passed it at the time. It's this wonderful panacea that is so great for America. And the question I have is, if it's so great, why is everyone getting waivers? There's 1,800 waivers that have been granted. Some states have gotten waivers. Ironically, I think one of those is Nevada, where Harry Reid lives, president of the Senate, who's the advocate of this, and his entire state gets a waiver.
Yeah. Who gets to win the lucky lottery, as Michelle Malkin calls it, that removes the Obamacare millstone from around your neck so that you don't plummet into financial ruin? Well, it all depends on who President Obama and Kathleen Sebelius with the Department of Health and Human Services decide. It appears to be a completely arbitrary and unilateral decision on their part. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors in order to do what is needed to escape the economic turmoil that Obamacare clearly creates. But the waivers continue to mount, except for states we see now with Indiana, Louisiana, Republican governors, oddly enough, coincidence, I don't know, asking for
ask for waivers. They don't get it.
They're denied. This is completely arbitrary and capricious in its application.
But Wisconsin, a heavily union state, gets a waiver.
Yeah.
Maine, a Democratic state, gets a waiver. And Nevada, Senator Harry Reid, who is the president of the Senate, who's been the big advocate of this health care bill. Isn't that that's just hypocrisy for his state to get a waiver, and yet he is the one who pushed this and brought people up to Christmas Eve to vote on this package so that this could be passed?
Well, interestingly, the Department of Health and Human Services issued a statement as to why Indiana and Louisiana were denied. The regulations state that, quote, there must be a credible threat to the stability of the individual marketplace in order to grant the waiver in a various state. They said Indiana has not demonstrated such a threat. Well, Obamacare puts every marketplace at threat. By virtue of this definition, this is demonstrable. So everybody should get a waiver.
So that means that in order to get a waiver, you have to have a credible threat that this was going to torpedo your economy.
Yeah,
okay,
right.
So obviously Utah or
Nevada's one of them
has been able.
That Harry Reid pushed this through. He's torpedoing.
So there's a credible threat
state
that Obamacare was going to tank Nevada, Maine, and Wisconsin, 3 states already. And there's other states that are lining up for waivers.
Yeah.
And there's obviously a credible threat that at least 1,800 firms, large corporations, and of various sizes, including a number of unions, would ultimately face financial ruin by Obamacare. And they're admitting this. And so, therefore, they're giving them these temporary
Get
waivers.
out of jail free cards.
You know why they're giving them the waivers is because they know that the implementations of Obamacare are going into effect now. It's the individual and the employer mandate that actually come into existence in 2014. But in the meantime, other aspects are already going into effect. Those aspects are starting to weigh heavily on businesses and on states. And now what they're doing is they're waiving those out of it because they know that this crushing weight that's starting to happen there would create such a backlash where these companies would go out of business, states would go bankrupt, that it would create this backlash. And they're wanting to essentially relieve some of the pressure, I believe, to get past the 2012 elections because it's this Obamacare that is the millstone around President Obama's neck. It's his signature piece, and he will rise or fall with Obamacare.
You know, but this whole scenario, again, underscores how pretty much any time liberals come out with a bill and they call it something, the reality of that bill is, or that law is, that it essentially will do the exact opposite. This is, in shorthand, is called the Affordable Care Act. Well, if it's affordable, why are they handing out waivers to crony waivers to states and political powers and unions and people behind closed doors who have backed them? If it's so affordable, why is it creating such to quote from them, a credible threat to the stability of the individual marketplace? That is the opposite of affordable, I believe.
So a waiver, in order to get it, you have to show that it is a credible threat to the stability of the individual marketplace. And if you can show that by not getting waived out, there would be a credible threat. You'd have to give information and facts and so forth, how it's going to threaten your marketplace in the state or in your company, your business. And obviously, 1,800 people have been able to make that. 1,800 corporations have been able to make that showing, and unions. And I believe one of those is McDonald's. It's a large corporation, obviously. And then others are unions. And then, of course, these 3 states. And there's other states lining up. So that really ought to tell somebody about what Obamacare is all about.
Well, I would argue that every individual in the United States, every corporation, Liberty University included, fall under this category, that the Department of Health and Human Services meet this threshold, that there is a credible threat to the stability of the individual marketplace. As Obamacare continues to be vetted now after the fact, of course, it wasn't vetted before the fact because we had to pass the bill to see what was in it. Well, in fact,
remember, Nancy Pelosi says we need to pass the bill and then we can see what's in it.
Well, right, exactly. We had to pass the bill before we could. So now that we see what's in it, waivers are being handed out like candy at a parade, and it's because, of course, as we have said all along, it is unsustainable. It is not the Affordable Care Act. It does, in fact, quote, create a credible threat to the stability of not just the individual marketplace for corporations, but the entire United States economic system.
You know, I'm writing an article for The Liberator. It's going to be the January article for The Liberator, and it's about the various threats that we face in 2012. And one aspect of that article is talking about the economy. We're $15 trillion in debt. It's astounding how many seconds it would take to make even 1 trillion seconds, how many years it would take. And it would take over 300,000 years, nearly about 350,000 years of seconds to equal 15 trillion seconds. It just kind of helps you to understand how massive this debt is. 350,000 years approximately of seconds, clicking every second for 350,000 years, you'd finally get to 15 trillion. We're at $15 trillion in debt right now. Obamacare now comes on top of that, and when it's fully implemented, it will have a credible threat to the survival of this entire country and the economy. It will collapse an already weakened and very dangerous situation.
And I believe, Matt, that is by design. This president said that he intended to, quote, fundamentally transform America. It is no secret that he seeks to emulate this Euro-socialist style of governance. I believe that this president thinks he's doing the right thing, but he intends to undermine and break down our free market capitalist system here in the United States to the point that it is a hollow shell, and then liberals can supplant their dream of a socialist states of America and create a new form of government. Essentially, they're doing it. They're well on their way, and there is no other explanation because when you look at it on paper, it is completely unsustainable. This president, liberals in Congress, are going to bankrupt the United States of America. So now we have to sit back and say, okay, they know this is the fact. They're doing it on purpose.
Yeah, it can't be just simply ignorance. I mean, to add insult to injury, which is what Obamacare adds to the economy, is exactly what they're doing. It's going to topple and destroy this country and the economy. This case is before the United States Supreme Court right now. Liberty Counsel's case is there pending. We filed the first lawsuit against Obamacare in the country for private individuals, and I was the first to argue it at the Federal Court of Appeals. We'll file a very important brief at the U.S. Supreme Court, and a decision will come down from the High Court no later than June of 2012. So keep that in prayer. Go to Liberty Counsel's website, find out more about Liberty Counsel, especially at this time of the year as we close out our year end at Liberty Counsel. Continue to keep Liberty Counsel in your prayers, and you can also remember Liberty Counsel with your year-end financial gifts. Gifts postmarked by December 31 in your time zone or online, whether it's online or by a check, can be counted for 2011.
You have been listening to Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel. We hope that we have motivated you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedoms. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email updates. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.